You, stand there!" Officer Mark Ellis's voice cut like a blade across the courtroom. His finger pointed at Maya Thompson, a composed black woman in her 50s, standing still as stone near the defendant's bench. Her wrists were not shackled, yet her presence alone seemed to offend him. He strutted forward in front of everyone, eyes narrowed, jaw clenched, like this was his personal arena. Gasps rippled across the gallery. A woman tugged her daughter back, as if Maya was dangerous. Silence swept through the room. The judgment was instant. "She looks like trouble," a clerk muttered under their breath. Maya didn't flinch. She met Ellis's glare and asked quietly, "You sure you want to do this?" He snatched the folder from her hands, and a black clip fell, blinking red. He didn't notice, but a young intern on the bench did, and spotted a federal-looking pin beneath Maya's collar. Something was off. If you believe no one should be judged by appearance, especially by those in power, hit like and subscribe. Comment "Justice" if you're watching from somewhere that still needs change. Maya Thompson was raised in a forgotten corner of Alabama, where dust-coated broken chalkboards and survival was a full-time job. Her mother taught 4th grade. Out of a crumbling schoolhouse, her father, a war veteran, kept discipline sharp and dreams sharper. Maya was the quiet one in the back row, the girl who turned every slammed door into a reason to keep climbing. She didn't chase praise. She chased fairness. By 16, she was crushing high school debates in towns that didn't even print her name. By 20, she was drafting oversight clauses for federal ethics boards. No cameras, no articles, just quiet impact. She rewrote legal training manuals that judges now use, while Ellis patrolled traffic stops with a smirk and a superiority complex. Ironically, the same man who once sneered at her book smarts now sat on courtroom security, armed, decorated, and barely qualified. He didn't recognize her. But Maya? She never forgets faces. She stood calm now, her bald head a public scar, yet her spine didn't bend. She'd mentored inner-city youth just last week. She'd helped rewrite the charter for an anti-bias policing coalition a month before that. But in this room, she wasn't a hero. She was defendant. "I audit failures," she told the courtroom assistant when asked her background. "Policy failures, human failures." The words were vague on purpose. Ellis heard them and frowned. He didn't like mystery. Ellis strutted through the courtroom like he owned it. His uniform was crisp, his badge polished, his ego bloated. He smiled at the news cameras and joked with the staff. But when Maya walked in, his grin vanished. "Late again," he muttered loud enough for a clerk to hear. The blonde intern behind Maya, white, giggling, carrying Starbucks, was greeted with a warm handshake and a compliment on her shoes. Maya? Not a word, not a glance, just cold eyes and deeper assumptions. She stood still, unmoved, because what Ellis didn't know was this. The courtroom was about to become his own audit chamber. Have you ever been misjudged before people knew who you were? Drop a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe. People like you, always. Think they're above the law, Ellis muttered under his breath, loud enough for Maya to hear, quiet enough to pretend he didn't say it. His voice carried the weight of inherited authority, laced with personal venom. Maya's gaze didn't shift. She knew the playbook. Loud men with shaky power always tried to rattle quiet women. As she moved to sit in the second row, Ellis stepped in front of her. "Defendants don't sit in the front," he snapped, gesturing toward the far corner like she was an animal he needed out of sight. "You're not special. Sit in the back." Then came the moment that would stain the day. Ellis turned toward the court officer's desk and said clearly, "Security protocol, full inspection. Strip any head coverings, possible concealment risk." There was no law behind it, just performance. The court staff hesitated but nodded. 2 guards approached Maya with clippers. A sharp silence gripped the gallery. A man in a gray suit blinked slowly, his lapel blinking red. Recording. Another woman's phone came up just below chin level. No one said a word, but the room knew. Ellis held up a printed sheet. "Signed order," he declared. The page was real, but not the contents. No one checked. A young black paralegal behind. The defense table flinched. Her lips parted. She looked at the judge, then back down. She stayed silent. Maya didn't resist. The razor buzzed on. Her thick coiled hair fell strand by strand to the wooden floor, collecting like quiet accusations. A snicker from the corner. A whisper. The sharp scent of humiliation filled the air. Still, Maya never blinked. She stared straight ahead, her eyes on Ellis. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. Not with fear, with certainty. The kind that unsettled men like him. "What would you do if someone tried to erase your dignity in public? Tell us below." Ellis's grip tightened around Maya's arm as he yanked her toward the center of the courtroom, dragging her like a warning sign. The room collectively inhaled, then silenced. Even the casual murmuring from the benches died off, swallowed by discomfort and disbelief. Some shifted in their seats. A few looked away, but most just watched, pretending neutrality wasn't complicity. "I've broken no law," Maya said evenly, her voice low but firm enough to echo off the walls. Her tone didn't plead, it reminded. It was the sound of someone stating facts, not seeking permission. She adjusted her sleeve slightly, a movement so subtle no one but the camera above the exit could see her thumb press against the button sewn into her cuff. A faint beep pulsed beneath the fabric. It was quiet, just loud enough to register on a hidden audio feed. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was ammunition. "She looks familiar," a woman in the jury box whispered, her brow pinched as she tried to place Maya's face. A name hovered on her tongue, just out of reach. Without warning, Ellis reached for the scarf that still draped around Maya's shoulders, yanked it away, and let it fall to the floor like it was trash. Her recently shaved head, bald and raw, was exposed again, with bits of uneven hair still clinging to the sides. Razor in hand, Ellis grinned at the judge. "For her own safety," he said, mockingly formal. "We can't take any chances. You know how unpredictable some people get when they feel targeted." The judge didn't react. Neither did the bailiff. That silence? Permission. But Maya didn't wince. She stood rooted. She let them do it. Because sometimes the only way to show a system's rot is to let it reveal itself. From the gallery, a law student, a black woman no older than 23, kept her eyes down, visibly shaken. But as Maya caught her glance, the student gave a faint nod. Nothing loud, just solidarity. On the other side, the courtroom videographer scribbled something into their logbook, glancing at the timestamp. "She's making a show of this," someone scoffed behind the benches. Another voice chimed in. "She probably did something. Nobody goes through that for no reason." Maya reached calmly toward her bag, but Ellis stepped forward fast. "Stop!" he snapped. His tone cracked through the room. Hands stiffened. A fork clinked against a coffee mug in the jury box. "If you need help," a court clerk whispered toward Maya, eyes flicking left and right. But they didn't stand. They didn't. "Move! Stay in your place!" Ellis barked, directed not just at Maya but at the room, at anyone even thinking about interfering. A tray rolled by with plastic cups of water. Everyone was served. Judges, clerks, interns, everyone except Maya. Hers was missing, not forgotten, skipped. And still Maya stood, stripped of hair, stripped of comfort, yet somehow taller than every badge in that room. What would you do in Maya's place? Would you stay silent or expose the truth early? Let us know. The crack of Ellis's palm hitting the back of Maya's bald head echoed louder than any gavel ever had. Her head rocked forward slightly, but she didn't stumble. She didn't react. The air in the courtroom turned acidic, burning with tension, disbelief, and a growing sense of shame. "She's the problem," Ellis barked toward the judge, his voice filled with righteous disgust. "She's the reason this room's falling apart." But Maya's voice cut through the static. "All I've ever asked for is fairness." She didn't shout. She didn't plead. Her voice was steady, a quiet current pulling the room toward its conscience. She took one step toward the exit. Another. Everyone assumed she was done. But then, she stopped, turned, and walked back to the center of the courtroom, spine taller than ever. "Sit down," Ellis snarled. He lunged, grabbed her arm, yanked her back. Gasps burst from the gallery. A woman in the back stood halfway from her seat. "Enough!" she shouted, voice trembling with fury and guilt. Maya looked at Ellis, at the man still gripping her arm, and said, low and even, "You just made a mistake. A public one." Ellis shoved her again, more desperate this time, more exposed. But Maya didn't move. She didn't need to, because the room had already begun to shift. What should Maya do now? Expose it all or wait? Comment below. And if this shook you, hit like and subscribe. "This ends now," Maya said, not as a plea or a warning, but as a sentence passed. Her voice didn't rise. It settled like dust in a room where too many people had been too quiet for too long. Ellis spun around, pointing an accusing finger. "You're creating this mess," he spat. "You think standing there in silence makes you innocent? You're just manipulating everyone." But the crowd wasn't looking at him anymore. They were watching her. The same Maya he shaved, shoved, and paraded like a problem was now commanding the center of the room, without moving, without yelling, without fighting back. Her posture had weight. Her stillness made noise. The courtroom, once his stage, had shifted its light. Maya stepped to the witness table and set down a black folder. It made the softest thud, yet it landed like a verdict. No one could see what was inside. That was the point. She looked to a nearby court clerk. "Could you please hand that to the judge?" she asked. Calm, measured. The clerk, a man who had looked away for most of the day, nodded and took it without a word. He walked it to the bench, handed it off, then quietly exited the room. Ellis watched the exchange, jaw tightening. "What's in that file?" he asked, trying to sound casual, but his voice trembled. A drop of sweat rolled from his temple to his collar. A young paralegal, seated just feet away from the defense table, leaned toward Maya. Her hands trembled, but her voice held steady. "Do you want me to record the rest?" Maya's eyes met hers, gentle but focused. "No need," she said. "It's all been recorded already." She turned back to the courtroom. "This was never about rules," she continued. "It's about dignity, about what we allow, when we think no one will speak." Ellis, now pacing like a trapped animal, snapped, "You're turning this into a circus. Don't let her fool you. People like her don't belong here." Click. The mic in front of him had been hot the whole time. His voice, laced with racial venom, now echoed through every speaker in the room. Silence slammed down. Not passive silence, but shifting silence. People began to look at one another. Some leaned back, others sat straighter. The gallery wasn't neutral anymore. It was watching him now. Maya didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her eyes found a courtroom camera above the jury box, and for the first time all day, she smiled. Then she said it, not to Ellis, but to the room. "Everything you've seen, and everything you've heard, has been documented." Gasps didn't come. Applause didn't erupt. What followed was worse. Conscience. Unavoidable. And loud in its own way. "Do you think this moment is enough to change public opinion? Let us know what you do." The courtroom froze in place, as if time itself refused to move forward without an answer. The judge slowly lowered her glasses, her eyes narrowing, not at Maya, but at Ellis. Something in the air had shifted, irreversible and heavy. A suited government attorney, silent until now, stood from the back row and took 2 deliberate steps forward. No words, just presence, enough to redirect the tension like a storm changing course. Maya calmly placed her phone face down on the desk. For a split second, its screen pulsed with a soft blue glow. A signal had been sent. "What are you doing?" Ellis barked, panic seeping through authority. Maya looked straight ahead, eyes steady. "You'll find out," she said. And then, she said nothing more. If you think Maya's silence speaks louder than his shouting, like and subscribe. She shaved her head. "For this?" a woman whispered near the back, watching as Maya slowly rose from her seat. No words, no emotion. Just the quiet strength of someone who had waited for the exact second the world would finally see. The young law intern who had earlier nodded at Maya slipped her hand beneath the table, fingers trembling as they reached for a compact transmitter wrapped in cloth. Without a word, she slid it across to Maya. Their eyes met. No explanation was needed. Maya took it gently and began walking, bald, bloodied with silence, yet impossibly composed. She ascended the judge's bench like it was built for her and pressed a single button. Every phone buzzed, now broadcasting live. United States. Courtroom feed. The judge leaned forward in disbelief. "What are you doing?" Maya turned her head. Calm. "Delivering evidence." From the tech booth, a stunned court IT staffer muttered, "She bypassed our network." Maya faced the courtroom, her voice clear. "My name is Maya Thompson. I am not a defendant. I'm a federal justice oversight strategist, operating under congressional mandate. And this court has just been the subject of a federal sting operation." Gasps. Silence. The paralegal from earlier clutched her tablet. "That's her. I read her brief last year, on systemic courtroom bias. She's the one." Maya continued. "Everything, from my detainment to the public head shaving, was recorded and scheduled for live release. Today." The livestream viewer count ticked higher. 200,000, 600,000, 870,000, and rising. Officer Ellis stumbled backward. "You can't. This isn't legal. This is entrapment." But the judge didn't speak. She stared at him like she had just seen him for the first time. Maya turned. "I recommend immediate suspension of courtroom security and initiation of Article 47 protocol." The judge lifted her gavel. "Motion granted." Maya stepped down without a word. No triumph, just completion. 2 plainclothes U.S. Marshals entered. Not for Maya, for Ellis. She passed him slowly, whispered, "You shaved my head in public. Now the public gets to see the real you." No applause, no cheers. Just rows of phones lifted, screens glowing. The world was watching. "You used the system to humiliate," Maya said, loud enough for the room. "I used it to correct." Ellis's partner in security took a step back. The bailiff refused to meet his eyes. He bolted for the side door. Bang. The judge's gavel rang out. "You are not to leave this courtroom." "Effective immediately," she said. "You are stripped of your badge and will face internal and federal charges." The DOJ stream chat exploded. Hashtags flooded. "Shaved for justice." "Maya speaks." Ellis exposed. "This was all a setup," Ellis muttered. Maya didn't stop walking. "You made it a story the moment you touched me." She passed him. Didn't. Look back. To the law intern. "Thank you for seeing me before they did." The intern lowered her head. A bow. Quiet respect. As Maya exited, her live stream read, "Maya Thompson, Federal Lead, Police Oversight and Conduct Division, Washington, D.C., Was this the most powerful reversal you've seen? Should Maya forgive or move forward without mercy? Tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe if this shook you. You never raised your voice, a bystander said, watching Maya exit the building surrounded by quiet reverence. And you still won. Clips of the courtroom flooded the internet. Headlines didn't scream. They observed. "This is how change begins," read one. Another simply captioned, "Silence, power." When Maya was finally asked for a statement, she said only this: "Power isn't volume, it's vision." Then she turned to a gathering of students outside the courthouse and added, "To those who've been unseen, stay still. When it matters, they'll see." The same bailiff who once overlooked her presence now opened the door with a lowered head. "Welcome, ma'am." Inside, in a federal seminar on ethics, Ellis sat in the back row. Silent, unnoticed, unapplauded. In her office, Maya unsealed a manila folder stamped, "Phase 2, National Oversight Launch." "Legacy," she'd once said, "isn't in the noise you make. It's in the silence they remember." If this story moved you, like, subscribe, and tell us, should Alice be forgiven or face full justice?